and welcome to Footyplus, brought to you by Toyota. Today we're at Adelaide Oval to bring you another show full of all things South Australian sport. Let's get into it. Coming up on this episode, cricket legend Darren Lehmann prepares for the next stage in his career.
I suppose what happened was a big disappointment for everyone. It's pressurised out in the field for him.
And BMX champion Sam Willoughby shares his inspiring story.
I'm now considered a C6 incomplete quadriplegic. I remember everything really, just being scared and just a lot of regret, honestly.
But first, we're heading 800 kilometres west of Adelaide to the breeding ground of some of our most famous Indigenous footballers. The team they call Kuna is Australia's oldest Aboriginal football club, and it's a story of pride, passion and the power of tradition.
Tucked away in the back blocks of Ceduna, its modest appearance at odds with its rich history and critical importance to this town, the home of the 113-year-old Kuna Football Club.
It's not just a football Guernsey. This means more than just that.
You know, if take the club away from here, Ceduna will fall down, I reckon.
It's a place rightly revered in this region, the scene of regular on-field triumphs and, more importantly, a venue that provides vulnerable Indigenous youth with a source of pride and a powerful sense of purpose.
You wear red and white, you bleed red and white. You bleed for Kuna Football Club.
On a day when Eddie Betts led the Adelaide Crows Indigenous contingent into town for a clinic with the region's kids, some of Kuna's eldest statesmen were in the mood to reflect on the history of a club created by a Lutheran mission west of Ceduna in 1906.
It gave them something that they were the best at. You know, their ability to play natural football, inspired football. People that are playing now for the Crows at the moment, the Betts and Miller and all those, came from this area, and I had the pleasure of probably playing with their grandfathers back in the 60s.
Massive family ties here. I guess I was born in Port Lincoln and I played for Adelaide Football Club, but most of my family, the Betts family, have came through Kuna. My grandfather is Eddie Betts as well, and he's a male medalist, and he's up here on the wall just up there, and then I've got another grandfather and Reggie Betts, who they call the legend.
Big names like Burgoyne, Johncock, Wells, Wanganeen and many more also have bloodlines running through Kuna. So does NBA star Patrick Mills. But the most famous name right now is definitely Betts.
My big brother right here. Yeah, he's good. Big left foot. I always think he can kick goals, but I don't know if he can kick goals. He's a backline player, a ruckman sometimes. Always love to take speckies too.
And how proud are you of this fella?
Couldn't be more prouder than him. He's a bloody little legend now.
They say it's the respect for history, the camaraderie and community spirit that has ensured the Kuna Roosters' longevity and all of those premierships as well.
As soon as you put on that Guernsey, you're putting on the weight of your spectators, you're putting on the weight of your ancestors, putting on the weight of your grandfathers that played there before them, your fathers that played there before them.
Male medalist Dean Hine, whose picture sits proudly on the clubroom walls alongside grandfather Betts, perhaps sums it up best as he describes the privilege of playing for Kuna and the Indigenous heart that has driven it for more than a century.
One of the best things that ever happened in my life was being a young bloke playing first ruck for the Kuna football team, because they, as I say often, they grew me up. Their willingness to accept anybody, despite all the shit that might be handed out to them, their sense of humour and their willingness to forgive.
The Adelaide Football Club is set to start a new chapter in its history with a proposed move from their traditional roots at Westlakes. This week, the Crow Show will give you an exclusive insight into the club's plans for a new state-of-the-art facility.
I think we've seen sporting clubs evolve in recent years, and we've spoken about developing a sporting club of the future.
Don't miss the full story on Channel 7 this Sunday with Mark Bickley and Alana Smith. after surviving the traumatic fallout from Sandpapergate. Former Australian cricket coach Darren Lehmann has fallen back in love with the game of cricket. As a new coach for the Brisbane Heat, Lehmann is prioritising fun and excitement. And in a candid interview with Footyplus, he is predicting better times ahead for South Australia's struggling Redbacks.
You can take the man out of South Australia, but not South Australia out of the man.
I played here all my life, so I love the place. Saka are always dear to my heart, and they gave me an opportunity to play and live cricket for a long time.
But returning for a second stint as coach of the Brisbane Heat, Lehmann is again plotting to defeat his South Australian mates. And this time that includes his own son, Adelaide Strikers batsman Jake.
That'll be fine. Yeah, I know how I'm going to get him out, so don't worry about that, Jake. You do know a lot of them and how they go about it, so it's just great fun to see them. And then when you're on the ground, you're obviously playing to entertain and try and win the game, but off the ground, you're mates and you have a beer.
Lehmann has made Brisbane his home for the past 9 years and coached the Heat and Queensland's Sheffield Shield team to titles before coaching Australia for 5 years. When that reign was ended by the toxic fallout from last year's turbulent South African tour.
There's a human side of this. They've made a mistake, as everyone, including myself, has made mistakes in the past. These are young men, and I hope people will give them a second chance.
Lehmann considered walking away from the game for good.
My family and I have copped a lot of abuse over the last week, and it's taken its toll on them. I suppose what happened was a big disappointment for everyone.
But a summer of spectating and commentating rekindled his passion, and he jumped at the chance to return to the Heat. Away from the stresses of the international game, his emphasis will be on fun.
It's pretty easy. That's the way I have been all my life, making sure you're having some fun. So, it's pressurised out in the field for them. So off the field, we just got to make it fun, make sure they're ready to go and enjoying the game, then go and play with a smile on their face. If they do that, they'll normally play well.
Lehmann was a member of the last South Australian team to win a Sheffield Shield in 1996, and he was a concerned onlooker as the Redbacks recently collected their second successive wooden spoon and their 7th of the past decade.
It's been a tough year, hasn't it? There's no hiding from that. And look, I think Jameson does a good job. I think they've got good structures in place. They probably need a bit more experience where they can, and they've had their opportunities, and it hasn't passed them by because they're a young side. So they've just got to keep growing together and have some success, and I'm sure they will. It's been too long between drinks, everyone knows that.
And as for coaching South Australia one day, Lehmann says never say never.
The AFLW competition wrapped up last weekend with the Crows taking home their second flag in 3 years. We caught up with the team who are understandably still on a premiership high.
The best dancer on Sunday night. The dance floor was torn up. Stevie gave it a good crack. Probably by me. Yeah. Did I do the worm? Because I think I saw hips and knees, and that normally happens when I do the worm.
Most unique post-match celebration.
DP.
Yeah.
Ponta.
We were all dancing in one pack, singing We Are the Champions, and then 3 metres away was DP.
She was the lead singer.
I reckon she was attached to the microphone stand for probably about 3 hours or so.
I heard Hatchie was in bed by 10, but...
Yeah, that's not very long, is it?
What time did you get home?
About 2:30.
Oh.
The Premiership Cup hogger goes to Ebony Marinoff.
Oh. No. Hashtag share the cup. I think I held it for like maybe 3 seconds, and I was like, oh my god, like I've held it for too long, and she just comes past and goes like whoosh, and then takes off, and I was like, alright, I'll never see that one again.
Well done, Em.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Winning an AFLW premiership is better than...
Winning an AFLW premiership is better than losing an AFLW premiership.
Anything I've achieved so far in my life.
Like, I want to name one thing, but then I want to name another, and another, and another, and another. Hot chips when you're hungover.
I think it's just better than everything.
I'd rather have it.
Yeah. I haven't taken one off.
Simply the best.
Yeah.
It's just better than everything.
BMX champion Sam Willoughby was at the height of his career when a freak training accident left him paralysed from the chest down. Determined to walk again, Sam dedicated himself to a gruelling rehabilitation program. And now the Olympic silver medalist is using his inspirational story to motivate others.
Let's go! Come on!
So this was me 3 weeks before the Rio Olympic Games. At this point, I was in the best physical shape of my life. This was me 6 weeks later. I'm now considered a C6 incomplete quadriplegic.
And so one of sport's most tragic but inspirational sporting stories begins. And today's captive audience is the Adelaide Crows.
I remember everything, really. Just being scared and just a lot of regret, honestly. Just felt a lot of regret and just felt really sorry to have more so put my family and my fiance Elise through all of that.
Sam Willoughby, two-time world BMX champion and Olympic silver medalist, had suffered a devastating spinal injury in a horrific training accident in the United States. He was told he'd never walk again. He'd never use his arms again. He was told he'd never again be independent. Willoughby was having none of it. Willoughby immersed himself in his rehabilitation and just 15 months later kept a promise to walk down the aisle when he married American BMX star Elise Post.
Elise, I think, saved my life just because she never changed. She didn't care if I was in a wheelchair at the wedding, but it was just my way to show her just how much I appreciated her. I practiced for months around the house, and then on the day it was 10 times as hard, just the nerves, and as soon as I seen her I was like crying.
Willoughby now coaches fellow Olympic silver medalist Elise, who he says is the girl of his dreams. But throughout the journey there's also been another loving companion.
Mila just is amazing. The day I got hurt, she just clung to me. Like, she noticed something was different, obviously, and she's been at rehab every single day, and to this day if I go into our gym and get on the mat table, she's right there. Statistically, they told me, you'll never walk again, you'll never be independent again, but statistically, you guys won't win every game for the rest of the year, but you still show up. And that was the biggest thing for me, was showing up every day.
But Willoughby says it took a chance meeting with NASCAR Supremo Booty Barker to truly shift his attitude.
Until the point that I met Booty, I guess I'd just been surrounded with negativity of what my life was going to be. Booty is same injury as me, he's a C6 quadriplegic, and he runs this race team, this multi-million-dollar race team. And by the end of the conversation, I'd forgotten he was even in a wheelchair. And he looked at me and he said, here's the deal, Sam. He said, outside of the run on the 100-meter dash, me and you, we can do anything. You're just going to have to drag yourself around a little more. I think I'm thankful for what I've got to as well, because I mean there was a time that I was going to be carried around like a 2-year-old for the rest of my life, and that's scary to look back on now. So my message today is to embrace the struggle. Embrace the struggle of the process, because at the end of it, it's the journey that you'll remember, because it has far more context than the outcome. Thanks.
Each week on Footyplus, we take a look at something that caught our eye on social media. And last weekend, there was an outpouring of support on Twitter for the Crows co-captain Erin Phillips, as she was stretchered off the ground during the AFLW Grand Final. Fellow footballers and fans voiced their admiration for the dual-code sports star, recognising Phillips' contribution to women's football. The 33-year-old took home a host of awards this week, including her second AFLW Best and Fairest trophy. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and a huge thanks to Adelaide Oval for having us. Keep an eye out for us on Channel 7 and 7 Plus in the weeks ahead. Bye for now.